Well, aloha, everybody. If you have been attempting to tune in over the last minutes, um, life sometimes affords us some really amazing opportunities to stay calm and present and not freak out. So my deepest apologies for all the interference and all the kind of nonsense that went on as we tried to get this show started, but I think we're here now. I usually kind of go into my own dissertation of, this or that in the show. Maribeth Merhealer, exploring the ancient lands of Atlantis and Lemuria with Tales from the Merworld Radio. And today I have a really wonderful guest who's going to talk to us. Her name is Joan Ocean. And if you're familiar with Joan Ocean, it's because she is probably, she's what I would consider the most magnificent dolphin and whale communicator that we have now on the planet. A being here who is truly an ambassador to the oceans and to all the sea creatures, and giving us the ability, those of us who have come to see her on the Big Island, which I have done, to have experiences with dolphins and whales out in the wild that, normally we wouldn't be able to receive on our own. I met Joan back in 2013 when I went to the Big Island and decided, kind of just on a whim, to do a dolphin swim, to do a seminar with her. The dolphins spoke very loudly to me that it was time for me to come visit and time for me to come be with them. So kind of on a wing and a prayer, I went by myself, purchased my ticket, was paired up with a wonderful roommate on the seminar, and had one of the most amazing weeks of my life in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with all these dolphins all around, and this wonderful woman named Joan Ocean, who gave us an experience that I will never forget, and that changed my life. And I'm going to talk a little bit more as we go through about how that experience with the dolphins, what kind of a catalyst that was for my life and my growth, and really for my career. But without further ado, and you will all have to be okay with simply seeing a photograph of this lovely woman, we got to have her call us from the Big Island today. And I would like to introduce to you Miss Joan Ocean. Joan, how are you doing?
Good. So great to hear your voice, and good to be with you, Amira. Really wonderful. I was so looking forward to today. I've been in shutdown and in being quiet like everyone else, and I am ready to go out into the world again and have more wonderful people surrounding me and have a great time. So I am so happy we can do this together. And yes, I know we did think it would be with visuals. And just so you know, I have this beautiful electric orange top on, and I put a few curls in my hair, and I put some jewelry on my neck, and things I don't normally wear that much. But,
oh, my goodness.
Anyway, this is great because I have a lot of things I'd like to share. And, normally I do week-long seminars, so I have a week of information, but we'll fit in a lot of it today. So
wonderful. And what I would really like to know, and I think what my listeners would like to know, in my opinion, there is not much going on in the plant and animal kingdom as important as that which is going on in our waters and with the cetaceans, and what the water creatures are doing for humanity in this moment, in this very transitional time. And what I would really like to know is that what is it that the dolphins and the whales really want us to know right now? And I would like you to also go into how you got started with them. Like, how did your journey 30 plus years ago get started with working with the water?
Yeah, I know. A lot of times people ask how come, my last name is Ocean, and really that was my name, but I didn't get the clue. I didn't understand the importance of that name until much later in my life. And as I think most people know, I didn't even know how to swim when I first met the dolphins, but they just tempted me into the water. I couldn't resist, especially the Hawaiian spinners that leap in the air over and over, and you just feel called. You know, you have to go, and that's no accident. There's a reason for that. You know, there's a deep memory we have. We know about our connection with them, and we know it from Lemuria. We know it from Atlantis. And even if rationally it doesn't make sense sometimes, people all over the world are wanting to be as close to dolphins and whales as they possibly can.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what happened to me. I just, of course, I was with Jean-Luc, and his art had a lot of dolphins in it, and I was very moved by his art and all the sacred geometry. But being with them in the water, I mean, I first went out with a boogie board. So I think that's why people who don't know how to swim, they feel fine about coming with me because they know I understand. And the first thing the dolphins did was to teach me to swim. And then next they taught me to dive. So, yeah, it's just been an amazing journey. And they are so important. I like to think of it as that we as humans may think of ourselves as walk-ins. You know, we've come in here, we've walked in on the land, and we know that we're here. We're like the transition team, planetary transition team. A lot of us have done this before on other planets when they're going through major changes and increasing vibrations. And I think of the dolphins as swim-ins.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, they said we want to be there when you're there. We're all going to do this together. We'll be in the ocean, you be on the land. And they're lucky because in the ocean, there's so much more available to you in a way. I mean, the salt crystals are powerful geometric forms, and just the energy there. I mean, of course, they have no materialistic things, nothing like that to worry about, and they just are focused the entire time on multiverse experiences, really, and that's what I experienced with them myself as time went on. So it's
wonderful.
Important.
And you know, there was some really fantastic stories that you told us while we were up on your ranch, you know, while we were in and out of the water and doing some things up there with you and Lisa and Jean-Luc. And one of the stories that always stuck with me, and that I've tried to retell in your words, and people kind of look at me with disbelief, is the story about the dolphins not always being here, that they were actually newer to planet Earth than what we thought. Do you remember that story?
Oh, yes. I don't know if I put it in one of my books because, like you said, it was kind of an idea that would get a lot of people disagreeing, maybe. But as the years have gone on, I know that it's true more and more and more. And that was an experience of when I was swimming with them. Of course, I'd ask, you know, when did you come here and how did you get here? And, you know, I wanted to know. And we communicate, and we can talk more about how to communicate with them. But they would send me like acoustic images. A picture would come in my mind. And to do that, they kind of have to think what they have in their extended awareness that can relate to what they can pick up in my mind, in my energy field. Because if they send me something that's not familiar to me, it's meaningless, you know, true for everyone. So they're searching in theirs, and so finally they kind of sent me a picture of this like portal, and then like movement in time is what I got. So I realized they were talking about time travel. And, you know, when you get it, when your intuition responds to what they're sending you, and this feeling comes over you like, aha, they feel that you got it. They know. The dolphins know you understood. And so then once you understand part of what they're telling you, they can give you more and more and more. So they said, yes, that they had come in, and this is, I can really only speak about the Hawaiian spinner dolphins because they are the ones who have been in contact with me, although they're in contact with the oneness of all that is, even with the whales. But they're the ones specifically who let me know that they came in during this time because it's so important on planet Earth right now. And that what they do, and now we're more familiar with the concept of time travel, as we call it. But to be able to choose what timeline you'd like to be on what planet, and what place in the multiverse, and then choose to come in. So they told me they only came in like almost around the year I was born, but back in 1940, or maybe they came in earlier than that. And of course, I thought, what? I can't believe that. That doesn't seem possible. I mean, we have all the science that says they've been here for millions of years and all that.
Right.
And I started asking around. So I asked the Hawaiian kahuna that was working with me. His name was Lanakila. And I said, all of in your culture, you have the hula and you have chants and you have your wonderful stories and experiences, but none of them mention dolphins at all. Now they do nowadays, but in the past, anything you look at, there was no mention. And I said, how come? Why is that? When you're ocean-bearing people, ocean-faring people, you'd think there'd be a lot. And he just looked me right in the eye, and he just said, they weren't here. And I thought, whoa, well, that's interesting. And so then the next thing, I questioned the dolphins about it, and they said that when they come in, it's not just their physical body, but in addition, they brought in onto planet Earth all the history of their being here, a whole history that could go in all the books and in statues and all the information around the world that dolphins have always been here. And that whole history was brought into planet Earth. Now, they do that very carefully because we have a linear timeline in 3 dimensions. They can look at our linear timeline and see, our past and present and future. And they looked very carefully at what was ahead in our future, and we can learn to do that. That's what we do in my workshops. But they found a place where they could come in without disturbing our culture, because you know the rule, you don't interfere with any other race.
Right.
Let them evolve on their own. And so they chose a time to come in very quietly and initially stayed out in the deep waters. And then who would see them would be the boats going by. They'd ride the bow way out there. And not that many people were even aware of them. I mean, you have to really think how the interest in dolphins has exploded in the past 20 years, really, And then little by little, they started coming in close to shore. And they told me, they said that when you see us close to shore and leaping in the air, that's a sign to you that's been encoded from your own past or parallel timeline. That means come into the water and be with us. And that's what happened. I saw them and I couldn't resist. I had to go in even as a non-swimmer. So they said they're here and they came for that reason. And we're working together, very much so.
Yes, for many, many years now.
Yeah, and then I, even went and I saw, when I was in Egypt, bringing groups to swim in the Red Sea, and we went to the temples and pyramids, and there engraved on the wall, I all of a sudden saw a hieroglyph that was a dolphin. And I was so amazed. I said, look, there's a dolphin here among all these others. And so the Egyptologists that were with us, who really nice people, but they, didn't speak English, but they wanted to show us everything. They were so amazed. They looked. There was two guys, and they looked and they looked. They couldn't understand it. They got out their little books they had in their back pockets that had every hieroglyph that had ever been on all the buildings, all the wonderful sacred sites there, and they started thumbing through, and they couldn't find it. They couldn't find anything that showed that dolphin one. And so I was teasing the dolphins. I said, you messed up. You forgot to put it in their little book, but you put it in the pyramid itself, the dolphin there. and there have been a number of situations where people have said, yes, when you really go way back, it doesn't seem the dolphins were here. So that was very interesting, and then it led to my interest in that. And, of course, what happened to me when I'd start swimming with them, when I learned to swim and I knew that they were protecting me, the dolphins would swim side by side with me, eye to eye, and I'd be in the middle of them. At that time, no one else was going out there to swim with them. In fact, I'd asked the authorities, if they could, if it was all right. And they said, sure, and they kind of laughed because they thought no one could swim with free-swimming dolphins. And so I was alone with them, and I could actually swim along with my eyes closed and trust that they would direct me, and I would be in their slipstream, and they would protect me, and I wouldn't swim into any coral reef. I wouldn't swim out into the deep ocean, and I totally trusted them. As I went into that level of trust and relaxed, all of a sudden I found that I would go out of body. I was in such a deep space, and in all the sacred geometry in the ocean, I would just go out of body, floating above, and look down and see myself swimming with the dolphin. And that's
wow. And what I love about this story, and I'm sure you've told it hundreds and hundreds of times to many, many people. And I heard a similar story when I was there with you years ago, but you still tell it like you're telling it for the first time. And I can still hear the exhilaration in your voice and the excitement. And, even though I know you've taken hundreds and hundreds of groups out into the water to do this, when I was with you, I felt like you were doing it for the first time. The level of excitement and love and passion you had, not only for the dolphins, but for the people who came there to be with you, was absolutely sincere and palpable. And, I just found you and everybody there on that seminar that we worked with through you to be so delightful and have such golden souls and golden hearts. And I can only blame the dolphins for that. It's got to be when you are with them day in and day in, like out that, how could you not take on as a human? How could you not evolve into that just perfection of joy and unconditional love and delight and all the things that the dolphins are so well known for?
Right. Yeah, and they just bring so much joy. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of times people ask me, well, what do the dolphins say about the future? What's going to happen on Earth?
Right.
And everyone wants to know. And I said, well, they live in the moment so much, So we go out and we swim with them, and we're laughing, we're having fun, we're in bliss. They're playing games, they're doing funny things to make us laugh on purpose, blowing bubbles and things such as that.
I remember the plastic bag game.
The what one?
The plastic bag game or the leaf game?
Right, plastic bag, yeah. That we usually take out of the water because I think they get caught on them. But yes, exactly. Anything they can play with, even I've seen them play with jellyfish or man-o-wars. They don't seem to be hurt by it. They just plow into it and zip it all around. I don't know, poor jellyfish. But anyway, yeah, so they really live in this beautiful state, and they're just so happy. Like just yesterday, a friend of mine was saying she went out and she wanted to communicate with the dolphins, and she's gotten to a quiet place in the water, and the dolphins were around her, and she lives on Oahu, and she said nothing was really coming in, and she was feeling disappointed. And I said, well, how did you feel? And she said, I was so happy, and I was so grateful, and I was so full of bliss. And I said, that's it. That is the geometry that they are sending out, that we are receiving, that's merging with us. Those feelings, that frequency is what it's all about.
Right.
And, whenever we swim with them, it's like forget phone calls or things you have to do at home or emails or anything. You're just totally in the present moment. And
right.
It's just joyful. And then the games, I have seen them. If somebody's feeling down or not feeling well, they will do some silly things just to get that person to laugh. So they've done, all kinds of, we play, as you said, the plastic game, and we play the leaf game, and I have a lot of pictures of that on my website. But they would do something like we'd be playing the leaf game back and forth. I'm playing, and they have a leaf from a tree that's floating in the ocean wrapped around their tail, and they're swimming right in front of me. And then they shake the tail really, really hard and make the leaf come off, and then I'm supposed to grab it. And so I'm swimming behind them, and I reach out and I get it. And now I've got the leaf. Okay, so now the first time I did that, I was so happy to get a present from a dolphin. And I said, oh, my gosh, I'm going to save this forever. I tucked it in my bathing suit, swam back to shore, and dried it and put it in my scrapbook, a present from the dolphins. And then they never played with me again after that. I thought, well, what went wrong? And so I watched them play with each other. And no, you're not supposed to take the leaf and take it home and keep it forever. I was supposed to give it back to them and play the game.
Right. And and what is so wonderful and fascinating about all your stories, and particularly the one you shared about, the dolphins and how they're, actually fairly new to the planet and how they came in, is this show really explores existential topics like multidimensional realities. And it's just another layer that really shows me how we live in an environment, this planet Earth is an environment where things can be inserted and taken out and moved around in timelines like the Mandela effect, which people are finding out so much more about. And our life, our existence on this planet is so much more layered and complex and beautiful and magical than we could ever perceive with our 3D senses or read in a book, some kind of a textbook, that there really is magic happening all around us. And if we just open our minds to what might be possible, what's real and what's not real, what's fantasy, what's reality, like it's all a very blurred line, because in some respect it's all real, right? It's all true. So when we open up our hearts and our consciousness and especially letting something like the dolphins teach us and show us alternate realities, it just makes an enhancing for our existence on this planet that, it just enhances everything and makes everything so much more magical.
Right, yeah. And, all of this information is around us all the time, even on land or in the water, and especially here in Mu, as the Hawaiians always called Lemuria. It's so strong. And it's just, we are so preoccupied with other things, and we don't always have the time to meditate and sit down and tune in. But when we do, the dolphins have kind of given me a hint, and the whales too, about, they said so often when you're like into meditation or you have an intention or you want to go to another timeline and you kind of have an idea in your mind of what you want to see and what you want to happen, and they said that we as humans tend to use our rational a lot. We'll think about it and then we can create it from what we're thinking. But they advised and said, don't do that, to allow your intuition. Just go blank. Go and make communication totally blank. Don't try to program it, and see what comes in naturally. And sometimes it takes a while, but that's when you're really tuning in to the vibration. If you're in a space of love and you're radiating love, then that's what's going to be drawn to you, and you'll have these amazing experiences of what's really here around us.
And, and that's what allows us all to go back being those innocent, pure, magical children.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Olivia take us to a short break, a short intermission here in a moment. And when we come back, I would like to share with you and with our listeners the series of events that unfolded for me personally after I had my dolphin swim on the Big Island with you. So when we come back here in a few moments, more with the lovely, wonderful Joan Ocean. Welcome back. Aloha. My name is Amira Mer Healer, and if you're just joining us, you have tuned into Tales of the Mer World Radio with me, Amira Mer Healer. This is a program where we explore the ancient lands of Atlantis and Lemuria. And today, I am very blessed to have the opportunity to be speaking with, straight from the Big Island, the wonderful Joan Ocean. We planned to have her live on Zoom, but sometimes things happen. And so we've got her called in instead, talking to us. I'm up here on Kauai. She's down at the Big Island, and we're having a wonderful conversation about, of course, the dolphins and the wonderful gifts they bring to humanity. And we're going to talk a little later. Joan's going to talk to us about her seminars and her retreats and things that she does at her ranch on the Big Island. About 6 or 7 years ago, the Dolphins called me to attend one of her seminars, to actually take a week and go to the Big Island and stay with Joan and a lovely group of people. And we did, I think, 4 or 5 days worth of dolphin swims. And Joan, the reason I really want to share this with you and share this with my audience is I want people to really understand what happens when we follow our heart or when we follow the callings of our soul. And we don't ignore those things or think, maybe we shouldn't, and doubt ourselves when we really follow our intuition. So, do you remember having, I was there and my wonderful friend Melody Pence was there. And you set us up at the Sheraton. That's where we stayed. And we got to come up and we got to visit the ranch every day. And I was also remembering, Joan, the meditation you did with the Andromedans around the campfire.
Yes.
And what I remember about that meditation is that as you were bringing us, and I know you have a ship above your property, yeah?
A what? Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, and what I remember is as you're bringing us out of... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, it was probably about 15 years ago when the Andromedans contacted me in a meditation, and then they actually asked permission if they could put an energy ship, a field, kind of hovering over my land here and over the ranch house. And so, me, I'm always careful. So I said, well, what for, and what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I waited and I thought about it. And then I checked around and I found that some other people had also, a man in Israel, we had good contact. And he had also said yes. And it worked very well. And he was very happy and all. And so, really, once you experience the Andromedans and the Arcturians, you feel their energy. It's so loving and you don't have any doubts. And so, of course, I said yes, and that began a whole process of them preparing my energy field, preparing me to have contact with them. I mean, I know a friend of mine, Alex Collier, when he had to go on the ship, they'd give him a special belt to wear. But now things have just changed a bit, for his frequency, and now they can work with us, and our frequency changes so we can go. So little by little, I would go up there, and they would demonstrate to me, I would just watch at first, how they were healing people, and it was very fascinating because even some people, perhaps who had died in a war or that were light beings and were meant to stay on the planet and weren't meant to die, they actually would reverse time and review the situation that person, it was a man in this case, had been in, and bring him back to life and heal him and put him back in a situation that was safe. There were all kinds of amazing things that can be done when you're not limited to 3D thinking and being, So they would show me how they were doing healing, the way they did it, and then we did workshops where people could think of anyone they knew, themselves or someone else, who could use a healing, and then we would have this process of going up into the light and up into the ship. So that ship is still there, and it's up high, and they can put a cloaking technology around it. But often people who are further down the road from my ranch looking up, they'll call and say, Joan, I can see the ship right over your house right now. I say, oh, good. So it's been wonderful to always have them here, and they seem very interested in helping planet Earth like it's their main goal right now. That's what they're doing. And I have pages and pages of information from them that is going to go in my new book that I've been writing now. And it's just, they're the most loving, wonderful, supportive people. And then, of course, I have that connection to Sirius, too, very much so. Sirius, and some people, when they read my first book, said every time they'd read it a while, they'd kind of have to put it down because they would go into a meditative state, and they were tuning into the energies of Sirius that were coming right through the book. And so that's a very strong connection there. Sirius, the Pleiades, Lemuria, Atlantis, all of that we are so connected to.
Right.
And, yeah.
And when you come to places like, like your seminars, I know that I left, like most people, very transformed, very blissed out, so happy, so open-hearted, and then you go back into your regular life, and it can be kind of like, kind of like a cold shower hitting you, because it's so different than everything, the magic that we got to experience. I know I went back into my life, into my reality, and it was like, whoa, and it was palpable, the difference, and it was actually, I found it really challenging, and I got really sad for a while. I felt like I had left home. I felt that I had left family. I felt, I was so close and in tune and hearing the dolphins and the whales so well I was there. And it was like the cold sting of reality, and my home life came back, and I kind of lost that. So I went and I spoke to, and I also started getting a message right away, though. I started getting a message from Spirit asking me to go to Kauai and take a group of women and do a retreat. And I had never been on Kauai, and I had never done a retreat, but I kept getting this message over and over in my head that that's what Spirit wanted me to do. So I went and I worked with a healer friend shortly after that. And I was feeling very sad and missing Hawaii so much, and had this, these thoughts in my head, and also being a little bit afraid that I would never get to, go back to Hawaii again, like that might be the end. And my friend is a very good channeler. And I said to her, to the beings who were coming through to talk to me, I said, will I ever be going back to Hawaii? I'm so sad. And Spirit spoke through her and said, why, yes, you're going to go to Kauai and lead a group of women on a retreat. And I looked at her and I said, how did you know? And so we talked all about and explored all about that. And sure enough, the following year, I came back and did a little exploratory on the island of Kauai. Loved it here very, very much. Got a group of women together later that year and did my very first retreat on the island of Kauai, just as Spirit shared with me I would. And I know that I really owe that to you and to the time that I spent with the dolphins, because I decided to say yes to the callings of my soul. So how's that for a story?
Oh, that's beautiful. I am so glad. I know you're here in Hawaii. It's so good.
Been here, moved here 4.5 years ago. And absolutely, my mantra is every day on Kauai is the best day of my life.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for 33 years now, and swimming all the time with the dolphins, the same ones, you get to know them and all, and the babies, and it's just, I can't be without them. And I understand I came in this lifetime to be on the land, but I really prefer being in the water. And
I understand, now being near the water every single day, being in the water nearly every day, it's kind of hard to imagine doing anything different. Before program is coming shortly to a close, but before we do that, Joan, we've got to know, how can people find you, and what kinds of events and seminars do you have coming up?
All right. Yes, I'm happy to share that. And I'd like to mention, too, because I know a lot of the people who are friends of yours, Amira, and are on your site and all, are interested in Lemuria. And there is an amazing book out by a Hawaiian woman who channeled the information directly from Mu. And I really recommend it to everyone. And I'm just going to, it's unusual, but I'm going to put it in here. It's called The Peace Givers. The Peace Givers. And when you look it up, like on Amazon or someplace, there's a whole lot of books by that name, but this one has the subtitle, Hawaiians, Masters of the Light. And this is a friend of mine, Pua, who I never knew she had a spiritual background, and she was the sales coordinator for the King Kamehameha Hotel I worked with, bringing groups there. And all of a sudden found out she had a sacred, secret place she would go and receive all the information from the ancestors. So this is really true, and it's the first book of two. And although her name is Puanani, she didn't use that. She used her name, Hawaiian name for the author, and that is C, the letter C, period, F, as in Frank, period, and Ka-I, which is capital K-A apostrophe A-I. And I really recommend that book for the true story.
Okay, excellent. And anybody who has missed that information, didn't write it down fast enough, the YouTube version of this conversation will be up tomorrow. You can tune back in. What else do you have for us, Joan?
Great. And, well, I have a wonderful seminar coming up in December, and I'm so excited about it. It's called The Holographic Multiverse, which is all the things the dolphins have been teaching us, how to enter those spaces and be in joy. And, of course, my guest speakers that will be here, my good friends Laura Eisenhower and Andrew Bishago, who has physically time traveled. And he will talk about his experiences. Last time he was here, he was still going on at 1 and 2 in the morning. And I said, Andy, we're having fun in this workshop, but I got to go to bed. You know, I can't.
Right.
He has so much to share. And Laura, of course, just a so spiritually aware person with incredible information that's so positive to help us through these changes now. So the two of them are coming. That's in December, and it's December 5th until the 11th, that first full week in December. And we'll be meeting at the ranch, which is nice, so it's very intimate and close. We'll all be together. At night we'll be around the fire in contact with the Andromedans and whoever else wants to come in, and then we'll be doing in the mornings, going on the boat to be with the dolphins. So that's what's coming up, and I'm so excited about it. I love being with these people and with everyone who comes, because, you know, we're all chosen to come. We are, everyone who's there is who's meant to be there.
Right.
And it's exciting when we all meet. So, yeah, it's all on my website. My website is my name, JoanOcean.com. And then you just click on seminars, and it's there. And a lot of information there, and ET information and things such as that, too.
Great. And I know you have a couple of books also.
Oh, right, yeah. I do. I have 2 books. You can find them on Amazon, or you can order them at any bookstore by my name. And the one is called Dolphin Connection, Interdimensional Ways of Living. And the second book is called Dolphins into the Future. And now I'm halfway through the third book. Thank you, shut down, cluster in, stay inside. I actually got time to work on the third book. So I am pleased about that, but it's not out yet. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah. And yeah. We also have to give a shout out to the wonderful Jean-Luc Boisselet for the beautiful artwork that gets to serve as a backdrop for my videos. I'm so grateful to him for allowing me to utilize his beautiful heart and energy, and you all get a transmission, a Lemurian water transmission, sacred geometry, all of it through his artwork as I speak and as I interview people. And I know that Joan, you and Jean-Luc have been very close for many, many years. And, I just really think the world of you both, and want to thank you both for your service to humanity, for absolutely stepping up into your soul mission and plan, and just allowing all of us to have the joyful experiences with you on the Big Island through your retreats and seminars. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And back to you for all that you're doing also. Just great.
Yeah, takes all of us working together on our own little missions, coming together and yes. Returning this earth to, bringing up the new earth, bringing up the new Lemuria and the new Atlantis.
Yeah. I was going to mention one other thing. Do we have a few minutes yet?
Sure. We have about a minute.
I just wanted to say that, I know you and I are really interested in sacred geometry, and we're aware of it, and we're aware of the platonic solids and those 5 main ones, the tetrahedron, the hexahedron, the octahedron, the dodeca, and but once we start moving out with the dolphins and whales and into the higher dimensions and with the ETs, there's a whole new level of geometry out there, a whole new
You are correct.
And
You are
the whales
correct.
had told me about one and it was called amplituhedron. So because you brought up Jean-Luc, he did a small, like 2-minute video of the amplituhedron, the new geometry, and that's on his website, which is iwithin.com.
You know what? I think you've just given me our topic for our next conversation.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Joan. It was so
Hey,
good to
I
be
love
with
you.
you. I
Love it.
appreciate
Love
you
you
taking the
all.
time to speak to us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And sending oceans of aloha to you all. Have a wonderful day.